Welcome to That's Bananas with Savannah. That's me, your host, Savannah Hunter. This is my podcast where I share my craziest stories. I'm here to unload all of my experiences on you. And I want to hear yours. And then I want to reflect on what we learned. Because at the end of the day, we can gain knowledge in even the shittiest of shit occurrences. So why not pass it on? This here is the breakup episode. This episode will be slightly different because I wanted to have a guest, but time got ahead of me. The stars didn't align, stuff like that. So today I will be discussing one of my very few breakups and then reading the emails you guys sent in. By very few, I mean that seriously. I have only ever been in only a handful of significant official relationships, and none of them were consistently long. Nevertheless, I've had family breakups, friend breakups, breakups of all sorts. It's always painful, of course. And if you're like me and hate conflict, it's even worse than normal. I would honestly say that one of the hardest parts about being a human is when you have a connection with another and you invest time and energy and love and life into somebody, and then you have to adjust to their absence. Like, no matter the loss, whether it is sudden or gradual, it's tough. But I don't have to tell you that, right? You fucking know. However, there can be like insignificant people who come and go, who teach us lessons, and that's even in short amounts of time. So it doesn't always have to carry so much weight, and sometimes it can be funny. My story involves someone very significant, as he was my first serious relationship. Let me tell you, I have a story for the end of this podcast that is so fucking funny. Guys, you aren't ready. You aren't ready. But best for last, okay? So let's take it to the beginning. Whenever Michael, my dear friend, introduced my best friend Christina to her boyfriend, we'll call him Caden. And they were together for a couple months, and it turned out that Caden was a twin. He had a twin named Damon. That's also a fake name. Don't know why I have to point that out to you guys every time, but I just want you to know these aren't their names. I started talking to Damon, and me and Christina were so fucking stoked. Like, best friends dating twins doesn't get better than that. Doesn't get better than that. So lo and behold, on my 16th birthday weekend, we made the trip to Rochester so that I could meet Damon because, yeah, they lived in both Albion and Rochester. Long story. Long story. But it was between the two. So from then on out, my friend Michael and his older brother would help me and Christina out with rides. Of course, Christina was doing this before. You know, like she had been dating Caden for quite a while. So it was weird whenever I started dating Damon that she wasn't as happy with it as I thought she would have been. And after a while, things did start to take a turn. That's what the relationship was. It was me constantly trying to find a ride to Albion and or Rochester. And it was honestly super hard at that age. I was only 16. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a license. Honestly, what made it worse is my boyfriend, who was only a year older than me, he was on house arrest. Which I know doesn't make any sense because they lived in two cities They didn't like have a place to live. So, yeah. So basically, he had to just stay with his mom, which it really wasn't regulated. Like, let's just be honest, he was technically on house arrest, but he wasn't really on house arrest. We did stuff all the time. We always went on adventures. And after a while, I got really close with his family. Um, like I really liked going there. And not to say there wasn't bad things too. Like, lots of days alone. He would work, which was a good, but I was, totally out of my element in like random people's houses and stuff. Like I just had to like make do with like the people that were there and, the things that there were to do, which was mostly clean. I remember I scrubbed this guy's oven the one time, and it was honestly unforgettable. um and I would work so hard to get there, and he would be like, "Hey, can I have a guys' night tonight?" Excuse me. Do you know I just sold my soul to make it here to hang out with you? It was inconsiderate. The audacity, really. And there was like no affection, which made me feel bad. Um I'm getting into all this without saying I did lose my virginity to him too. So that's what makes him mostly significant. It was a huge first. And of course, I'll get into that story in depth another time. um, because that's, an experience on its own. But wasn't the coolest way I could have gone about it. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, like I think I was more in a relationship with his family at the end of the day than him. And I guess I was just trying so hard to be what Christina and Caden were because they were like so attached to each other. And I wanted that. But I had a whole different dynamic with Damon. But at the same time, I did feel wanted. So it's not to say like I was in this horrible situation. Okay, like we had fun and we had a great connection. And he was a great friend at the end of the day. I was unhappy in our relationship, especially when he went to jail. Yeah. I couldn't tell you why. Definitely don't remember at this point. But I know he went to jail when we were around the 3-month mark. And to me, that felt like we were in such a long-term relationship. I had never been in a relationship that long. And like, I decided to stay with him while he was in jail. And one time I went to go visit him, but I couldn't go because I didn't have my parent with me. And I was in Albion. I literally went to Albion, stayed with his family, and then couldn't go see him, which makes sense. So of course we would write letters to each other, and I would walk in the dark 2 blocks away to go drop off the letters. And let me tell you, I did not live in a good area. I experienced some shit on those walks. Lots of catcalls from really creepy people. That was when I lived on Holly Street in Lockport, so you can just imagine. So here I am. All this is happening with my boyfriend Damon, and I'm also going through a whole other experience with my best friend who is completely shutting herself off to me and so wrapped up in her relationship and so resentful towards me for reasons I couldn't understand. And it was just a lot all at once. But luckily I had a friend back home named, we'll call him Derek. Okay, and he was like my best friend at the time. Like we hung out all the time, and we would play Guitar Hero and watch movies, and I would just tell him everything. And like you'll hear like stories about him in the future because he was a big part of my life at that age. I knew he loved me, right? And I just wanted to ignore that. I just wanted my friend, but I knew he loved me. And he wanted me to break up with Damon, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't break up with my boyfriend who was in jail for somebody who was right in front of my face. So one day, I was hanging out with my two besties, Derek and Christina had fallen asleep at the end of my bed because we were all watching a movie. And Derek puts his arm around me and he kisses me, and I didn't pull away. I didn't pull away right at first, like I in the moment chose to feel loved. And then I pulled away. And then I noticed Christina had woke up and she had seen. And then I seen that she was mad. And so much was happening in that moment. So that evening ended and I felt really like shit, and Christina was like, "So, what are you going to do?" And I was just like, "Honestly, I don't know." So, thus begins, honestly, one of the first times in my life I would say I reached like the pit of despair. Basically, I was pretty lonely. People were pulling away from me, and me and Damon's 5 months hit, and it had been 2 months of us being in a relationship and him in jail and me just like trying my best. And I get a letter, and in this letter he is so mean and nasty, and I would read it to you if I still had it. And I only got rid of it only a couple years ago, because when I looked back at those letters, first of all, it's embarrassing, and second of all, that last letter was so gross, just in the misunderstanding, and how I was insulted. Not to say, if with the things he believed, I totally understood why he flipped out. But at the end of the day, I had no room to speak. And that's when it began. That's when the bullying began. I'm talking about major harassment from his sister, major harassment from his family, just being pushed away, just being like, just no one would speak to me. And what happened? Well, Christina had told the family, who told him, and honestly it felt like a punch to the gut, because I hesitated, but I was 16, my boyfriend was in jail, and I was very confused and lonely, and I needed my best friend to understand that. And this is not a reflection on who she is now. So here I am, broken up with through this really horrible letter. Now everything begins. I've now lost my best friend. She no longer wants to be my friend. She thinks I'm disgusting, and now she's best friends with my ex-best friend, who both hate me and basically want me to die. They're harassing me, prank calling me. I have people in school calling me a slut. And I'm like, how did it travel to Lockport? That's so confusing. Oh, and then Derek, done with my shit. He basically gave me an ultimatum after that. He said, you break up with him, or like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being your friend. And I look back and that's really sad, but I should have seen that coming. So here I was, fucking lost everybody, just being harassed, being misunderstood, feeling alone, feeling heartbroken from a million angles. Like, it was dark. And that's when my emo phase began. I wish I was joking. I'm not. I'm really not. Like, that's really when it started, because I was in it deep. So that was a pretty bad breakup, but of course I kept seeing Damon for years and years after that, and it was much more than just a fling. Me and him loved each other for a long time as people. We loved each other as people, meaning no matter who you're with, no matter what you're doing in life, I'm rooting for you, and I want to know how you're doing, and just, like, it's one of those people in my life. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but usually every couple of years we say, how you doing? How are your kids? Moving along. I've had his females come to me as a woman, and look, I don't know if in the past, and I'm talking in the past, if there was any infidelities, that's one I would not be sure about. All I knew was I did reconnect with him for a while there, because, I don't know, we had a connection. And honestly, that's something I learned with him, because I've loved many times, and all in different ways. And in many ways, it would make sense for me to continue loving those people. And that's why I do. I have learned through Damon, I won't try and make up fake names now, but just through many experiences, that at least for me, I cannot unlove people. Once I love you forever. You could do the worst things possible to me, and I still am always going to have a special place for you in my heart. It's crazy. And unnecessary, in my opinion, but okay. I also learned, of course, that teenagers are naive as fuck. Like, dude, what was I doing? I was 16. I didn't need to be wrapped up in that. I was just so desperate for a special relationship. You want to know something, guys? I've never found what I'm looking for. Not to this day. I've had tastes of it, but I've never had the real deal. It always slips away. Just a little takeaway there. I don't even want to get into that. But we are talking about breakups, and with breakups comes love, and it all comes full circle, doesn't it? And there's a couple things I didn't learn, throughout time, like that I deserve better, that I need to not extend my energy where it is not being matched. When am I going to learn that? When am I going to learn that, guys? Because when am I going to learn it? The universe is like, hey, how many other ways can we try and show you? Is it just me? No, I know it's not just me. All right, folks, let's get into these emails. I'm so happy that I've received some. Like, seriously, I've been waiting for this. So we're going to start with a little story that I like to call, No, Not Here. That's my title for it, not theirs. Their title is Breakup Story. Like, gotta be creative, guys. Not to make it a contest. I mean, I do like to be creative on my own, but all right. So he says, about 15 years ago, my grandmother passed. She meant the world to me. She was my rock, and my girlfriend of the time, for about 6 months, Julie, we'll call her, accompanied me to the wake. My ex, Alex, showed up to pay her respects. This was completely fine by me, as Alex practically lived with me when my apartment was next door to my grandma's house. We would have morning coffee with her on the porch, and Alex knew my grandmother well. Anyway, Alex and her mother showed up and gave me big hugs and kissed my cheek, and this was witnessed by Julie, who decided to throw a schoolgirl tantrum at my grandmother's wake about Alex being there. Of course, my whole family, who basically just met her, saw this play out. And of course, she caused a huge scene and dishonored my grandmother on this moment. So I had to dump her ass for acting like a psycho bitch. Alex had more right to be there than Julie, essentially, as she knew my grandmother where Julie hadn't. And that's facts. My takeaway from this, I would say, is like, grow the fuck up. If you're that girl, you need to realize there's a time, there's a place, and also pick your fucking battles, because shit like that doesn't matter. Like, there's actual problems in this world. That's my takeaway from that. If anybody needs to hear that, I'm here for you. Next up, we have a story from someone we will call Adam. I dated this girl almost 2 years, and we had issues here and there, but it was the best relationship I've ever had. Day after Thanksgiving, she goes and hangs out with a friend, even though she had told me she just needed some alone time. The friend was an ex-fling of hers. I made an offhanded joke about them sleeping in the same bed together, and she tells me they actually do that. I told her it made me feel uncomfortable, and I'd rather her not do that. She said she wouldn't do it, but then doesn't talk to me for a week. But when she does, it's super dry. Then she tells me that she's going to keep doing it, no matter what I say, even though there's another place for her to sleep. She told me that she doesn't want to walk up a flight of stairs to go to another room. I asked her if she really let the flight of stairs get in between us, and she said yes. I told her I'd do the same for her, and she said I know, and left it at that. So I broke up with her. By the way, that was titled, "We Broke Up Over a Flight of Stairs." Wow. Honestly, what it sounds like is somebody trying to find an out instead of being a big person, an adult, and saying, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore. Sounds like they were just looking for an out. But why? I don't get. After 2 years, you deserved more than that. You deserved way more than that. And I'm sorry. Okay. This one is from Rhiannon, my beautiful new friend, who I appreciate so much. So I met this kid on Tinder, and from literally day one, I told him I didn't want a relationship. I was still healing from the last breakup. I also wasn't super interested in him, but gave him a chance. So we hung out a couple times. First time he insisted he needed somewhere to sleep, because we lived almost an hour apart, so I offered to let him sleep at my apartment. Then he insists on driving home, falls asleep behind the wheel, crashes, totals his car, ends up in the hospital. So then either his friend would have to drop him off or I'd have to pick him up. Then he makes a plan to go to Georgia to visit his grandparents and help them after a hurricane. I was dropping him off at the airport the next morning, so he spent the night at my place. He decided that he just couldn't stand the idea of leaving state without me being his, so he asked me to be his girlfriend, pressuring me into a relationship. I hesitantly said yes. So he's in Georgia now and texting me 24/7 about how much he misses me and how much he loves me, and he's been talking about me to everyone all the time, and that he got me something and he can't wait to see me, blah blah blah. Ends up telling his grandma that he misses me so much that he's gonna leave early. It had been like 3 days since we started dating, So I picked him up from the airport and he spends the night again. We had a plan that he would have his friend come hang the following day while I was at work, and then his friend would spend the night and take him home the following day. Except when I woke up that morning, this man was quite literally hovering over me and immediately started firing question after question at me, like the very second I opened my eyes. I'm not a morning person, but I love waking up to the right person. I did not love waking up next to him, and I was incredibly irritated, and I knew that I couldn't continue leading him on. I spent my whole workday crying because I knew I was going to have to break his heart. That job was a lot of me driving, so while I was out, I stopped by my apartment so I could do it in person, gave his friends $20 for gas because I felt bad. Then they were gone when I got home. I tried to maintain at least a friendship with him, but he just couldn't stand not being in a relationship with me. I brought him to my family Thanksgiving because I felt bad because his family mistreated him. He used this against me and said I was a player and a bitch. Anytime I interacted with him since, he's harassed me and people in my life. He would message me saying I'm a player and commented on my cousin's picture of me, calling me a snake. All over 1 week of us dating. He told me at one point that he dated over 20 girls because it just never worked out. And well, now I know why. There's so much to take away from that, Rhiannon. First of all, I hope in life, through all that, you learned them boundaries, girl. Because, yeah, don't trust anybody. You can't be trusting people like that. Nope. That sounds like a lot of trust. It's a no. Yeah, he crazy. Also, like, a big takeaway from his side, it's like, whoa, dude, you can't, that's leech-like. You can't, you cannot cling to people like that so fast. It's scary. And it's a red flag. So people are going to run away. Like, it's not okay and it's not healthy. But mostly, yeah, man, stand up for you and your boundaries because people can be really weird. And at the end of the day, like my girls from the My Favorite Murder podcast say, fuck politeness, apologize later if you need to. If you feel like you're in danger, then fuck that. What I'm about to tell you is a true ass story. Comes close to home. There once was a couple named Pat and Julie. Okay. Now, this was Julie's apartment. So when she wanted to break up with Pat, he needed to be out, right? No. Pat said legal eviction, squatters' rights, 30 days. Not going anywhere. But the thing about Pat, he was an extreme drunk. Just inebriated all the time. So one day, he was drunk, completely passed out on the couch. So Julie and her friend Renee, her wild-ass friend Renee, took everything. They took everything, like the Grinch. They took the light bulbs, the cups, the toilet paper, everything, except for one onion, just in case he got hungry. So they watched and waited in the backyard, looked through the window, and watched him wake up out of his drunken slumber, very confused, with nothing but a couch and an onion. Dude. Completely empty. He was so confused. But he couldn't leave. No, he couldn't leave because then Julie could take back the apartment. So he had to just wait it out. He would not come out. I guess he found a book and a little flashlight and spent his time doing that. So here he was, One man, one flashlight, one book, one couch, one onion. And man, did they know he was hungry. So, of course, they made him a sandwich. They're not completely cruel. But of course, Renee, she had to wipe her ass with the bread first. You know, give it that fuck you seasoning. And they took it to him and he ate it. He was holding the apartment hostage, basically. And after days and days and days and days, they brought him a genuine pizza. Without ass cheeks on it. And I don't know what happened after that. They probably stayed together, let's be honest with how people are, but they took everything out that bitch and stored it at Renee's house. And I think that's the most savage fucking breakup short story I've ever fucking heard in my life. One man, one onion. That is officially the episode name. Y'all, don't fuck with people. You don't know what they're capable of. But I did want to share with you guys the notes I made on that story as it was being told to me, because I think it's the funniest summary ever, dude. Okay. Wouldn't leave. Legal evict. Drunk? Passed out. Took everything, like the Grinch. Light bulbs, toilet paper, completely empty. Left one onion. He would not come out. Waited in the backyard, watched in the window. Drunk, stumbling, confused. Found flashlight, one book, one couch. We know he's hungry. Made him a sandwich. Wiped ass with it. Took it to him. Hold apartment hostage. Genuine pizza. Days and days. Honestly, I thought that shit was funny. It's like poetry. From that, I learned breakups can be fucking hilarious. Hey, I love you guys. Let's never break up. But seriously, I love you guys. Thank you for listening, like so much. For reals, send your emails. Obviously, they will get read. They might not get read today. They might not get read tomorrow. They might not get read ever, but they might get read. So, I think that's something, don't you? But yeah, send your emails to bananaswithsav@gmail.com. You know the deal. Add the pod on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. I say we, it's just me. Just add me. You know, show your support. Rate, review, subscribe on all platforms, because honestly, that helps me out the most. Your downloads, seriously. But when you rate, look, it puts me on the map. When you subscribe, oh, seriously, it makes me so special. Like, come on, guys. I love you guys. You love me. Let's make this relationship work. Haven't we learned enough from this episode about breakups? We have to give and give back, 50-50. Starting next episode, we'll be doing a segment at the end of each episode promoting a local artist or a local business. I definitely want to support, my up-and-comers. It's important, and especially when it's local, I got your back. So definitely send me your emails with, what you do and what drives you to do it, and just tell me a little bit about it and what you'd like me to promote. I would love to do that for you. So let me help you. Help me help you. Help me help you. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But not this week, though, because I'm running out of time. And I'm tired. And my voice is so tired, guys. Like, I don't know if you could tell. But my throat's been all messed up. It's starting to mess with my voice. I can barely talk. Been coughing a lot. No, I don't have COVID. I have silent reflux. And it's damaging the tissues in my throat. And it's always got to be something with me. Something over the top. Something that affects something I love. Like, why my voice, though, when I love podcasting? But I guess count your blessings. I can still talk. I made it through. I did my best here. And if I end up with some damn vocal fry, it is what it is. So you guys have a fucking fantastic week. I love you guys so much. And anytime you're having a bad day, just be like, you know what? Savannah loves me because I listen to her podcast. And honestly, you don't need anything else. But seriously, I'm going to get going and stay chill and peace out.